This is why the mainstream media is failing, because when our politicians fail us, all they do is circle the wagons around them. This is creating devastating consequences for all of society.
I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how
Why?
can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, we don't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn what we want.
Mother Nature can be bent by the will of humans.
Mother Nature doesn't give a damn what we want.
Mother Nature doesn't give a damn.
Very poor choice of words.
The magnificent Hoover Dam, which was constructed 80 years ago, still stands strong and serves the U.S. in the fields of irrigation, flood control, and power production. Even during a torrential rainfall, you won't see Hoover Dam overflowing like this, causing destruction.
I can go on and on with humans controlling Mother Nature. In fact, let's do one more.
In 1995, the U.S. government did something that seemed pretty simple. They took 14 Canadian wolves and released them into Yellowstone National Park. What followed wasn't just the restoration of a species, it was the transformation of an entire ecosystem, the revival of a dying landscape, and an economic miracle that would eventually save America $94 billion. First, the elk population started dropping, but not just because wolves were hunting them. The elk actually started behaving differently. They avoided valleys and gorges where they could be easily trapped. They spent less time by rivers where wolves could ambush them. This meant that in these areas, young trees could finally grow without being eaten. Within just a few years, new aspen, willow, and cottonwood trees were sprouting up along rivers. Those trees stabilized riverbanks, preventing erosion. This actually changed the rivers themselves. They became less wandering, more stable, and clearer.
What I hope to do here is provide the most important daily news with additional information and try and make that as entertaining as possible. If that interests you, then you're going to want to subscribe to the channel.
So far, 24 lives have been lost. Evacuations continue. So what should these officials be doing to get help or get this under control?
It should be an all hands on deck operation. People understandably are looking to place their rage somewhere, so I don't know if it makes people feel better to point their finger, but just like North Carolina after the storm, you don't start recapping a game until the game's over. There are fires ravaging not only the land, but the count of bodies keeps going up and up. They haven't even gone and been able to see how this all started. You can't.
Why? Why don't you start talking about this now? These are the same people that want to talk about gun control the day that a shooting happens. And whenever anyone on the right says now is not the time, they start throwing their hands up and say, well, I guess never is the time. Rather than taking accountability, learning, and trying to do better next time, Gavin's going to blame misinformation and lies.
We've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country. And we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you because it infects real people that are out there, people I meet every single day, people the mayor's been meeting with, and they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time. And you wonder where this stuff comes from. And it's very damaging as well.
Gavin, you don't need to worry about anything but getting this fire under control. What's happening online is really not your job. You need to open up your podcast app, listen to yourself on the Pod Save America podcast, where you say you don't know what's going on. Well, you need to figure that out. You need to talk to your people, and you need to get these problems solved.
California want to know the answer. I've got that question. I can't tell you about how many people, what happened. My own team saying what happened, and I want to get the answers. And I'll be candid with you, I wasn't getting straight answers.
Yeah.
I watched the press conference. I met with some of those leaders. We had my team start talking to local leaders, saying what's going on. Our state.
And you weren't getting straight answers from.
I was getting different answers. When you start getting different answers, then I'm not getting the actual story, and they're assessing it. And
I understand that emergencies happen and unforeseen events can happen, say like an earthquake or a volcano going off. But this problem of forest management has been an issue for decades. And in fact, 5 years ago, Trump tweeted to Gavin Newsom complaining about it. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. Must also do burns and cut fire stoppers. Every year, as the fires rage and California burns, it is the same thing, and then he comes to the federal government for money and help. No more. Get your act together, Governor. You don't see this close to the level of burn in other states. There are millions and millions of dollars and lives being destroyed right now, but the mainstream media is focused solely on protecting the politicians that they put there.
So I guess none of us should have been shocked this week when Elon Musk posted that the Los Angeles Fire Department prioritized DEI over saving lives and homes. That's an exact quote. That appeared to be a disgusting dig at the city's fire chief, Kristen Crowley, who has served in the department for decades, rising through the ranks to become the first female and LGBTQ fire chief in LA's history.
Again, why does that matter? And what the hell does it have to do with being a good firefighter? Nothing. So why are you putting it out there as some sort of credential?
I'll say it out loud. They have no intention of putting out these fires.
All these people are focused on pronouns and fish you can't eat and, scrubbing white people from the fire department.
DEI, as Elon Musk said, can actually mean DIE.
In the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose?
I agree that not everything is some globalist plot. No, not always. But neither is climate change, which for the left, where anything and everything to do with climate, as if climate has been a thing for thousands of years, is the result of climate change and not just climate.
So there's the results so far of today's poll question. It's for kind of a lot of voting. Damn. 37,929, which is more to blame for the devastation of the California wildfire. 73% saying it's climate change, 27%, almost a third, saying government mismanagement of resources. Let's check in on your social media comments. What do we have? Climate change, what a joke. How does climate change cause these fires? What are you going to do about climate change? Millions of... Okay, let's just put our heads back in the sand. I guess that Mary Kay would tell me...
Notice how he goes to read a tweet, and because he doesn't like it, he just stops halfway. So we'll finish it. What are you going to do about climate change? Millions of taxpayer dollars supposedly going to combat climate change with no results. It's an attack on free market capitalism and a money laundering scheme. I would say it's an attack on free market capitalism because it's a form of crony capitalism. It's always good to have a few government subsidies to compel people to buy your product. So this is the problem. Climate happens. The Santa Ana winds, for instance, which were reported over 5,000 years ago, are responsible for spreading the fire so quickly. That's certainly long before the Industrial Revolution and CO2 emissions became a problem.
I have it on the map. I want to walk you through this and show you exactly what's happening. It's called a Santa Ana wind. High pressure sets up to the north, and you get this area of low pressure off to the south. And the closer these are together, the stronger the winds are. Picture a river that goes between boulders and the water rushes during that. This is kind of what happens during the Santa Ana winds. The high pressure draws the winds. It pushes it down. It's over the mountains, and then it drops down. And as it does, it compresses and it warms. Once it does that, it goes into the desert. That dries the air out even further. Then that wind will squeeze through the channels, the canyons. It'll basically create a funnel. And that brings us the extremely strong winds that then continue to push out, and it is so dry. They create hot, dry, and very dangerous conditions for high fire.
The Santa Ana winds and the accompanying raging wildfires have been a part of the ecosystem of the Los Angeles basin for over 5,000 years. Newspaper archives have many photographs of regional damage dating back to the beginnings of news reporting in Los Angeles. The winds were feared particularly by the farmers for their potential to destroy crops. In yesterday's video, I asked what's the worst case of someone who was hired for a job that they weren't qualified for. No surprise here, Blas6684 says Biden, any Democrat in any position, and Kamala Harris as VP, wannabe POTUS. Here's a non-political one. The CEO of the hospital I work at. She is currently being sued. I'm sure there's quite a story there to tell. And this person comes clean, says, me, I was a DOJ DEI hire. It was nuts. Don't forget to check the pinned comment below for today's question. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys tomorrow.